everybody. And today I have Ryan from Blogging from Paradise with me today. We're going to talk about something that basically a lot of people can't seem to grasp, that he has grasped and mastered. So it's blogging. Ryan, thanks for coming on.
Jeff, thanks so much for having me, buddy. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Great. So let's talk blogging. I mean, so we'll set the scene. Before blogging was known as like book writers, authors. So people were on their computer, they were typing, they were at the beach sipping on mojitos, enjoying life, blogging and getting paid for it and living life. And then reality set in that blogging wasn't as easy as it looked on certain social profiles. Let's put it like that. Companies tried to blog, but they couldn't get a grasp of it because blogging for them was message bullying. I'm going to push this message and narrative down your throat, and it's going to be exciting, even though it's just our company jargon. It's just us talking about us, doing us. And so they were like, well, how come we can't get the same type of response that some of these, I would say, travel bloggers and mommy bloggers get? And they couldn't figure it out. So you mastered it. And I love the way you say blogging from paradise, the art of blogging. So tell us more about that.
Well, Jeff, I think people get this idea that blogging is just sharing your thoughts and hitting a publish button. And it's like you said with the companies that do it and they think, oh, let's just push our agenda or push our business, hit the publish button and we'll grow business in that manner. And it just does not happen that way, guys. Blogging is a skill. I had to clear my throat before I finished up with that because this skill has taken me a good 10,000 to 15,000 hours of my life to develop to this point to where I could be featured on Forbes and Fox News, Entrepreneur, Richard Branson's blog. Like these people do not pitch you unless you really know your stuff. And I've only pitched 2 people in my entire career since 2016. Yeah, everybody else comes to me, but that shows you when you do things with the idea blogging wise of developing your skills and realizing that it's a two-way street. So it's not just you going on a podium and saying, this is my thoughts, this is how it is, buy my stuff, join my team. It's two-way. There has to be engagement. There has to be relationship building. There has to be, I guess more than anything, an incredible amount of generosity over years of your life to really, really lay the foundations to where you increase your skills, exposure, and credibility to the point where you can do this full-time successfully.
Wow. And that's not a skill that I've mastered at all. I'm not even close, not even intermediate. It's a challenge. I mean, because you read some bloggers' content and it's so good. And you wonder how in the world are they capturing these emotional touch points? And especially from a business angle, because you just want to be facts. And we'll go back to Hillary. I love Hillary. But I remember when she was running and it was fact check. And a lot of businesses do that. This is fact. But facts aren't exciting. And people want to be entertained, educated, and engaged. And unfortunately, if you're not, like you say, putting in those hours to become mastering of the craft, it's hard to give the facts in a way that is retained. So what have you learned over the years when it's come to mixing, I guess you would say, the creative aspect of it and then the facts?
The more you write, the better you'll become. The more confident, the more clear you'll become. So if you practice writing offline every single day, even if you're just writing about your day-to-day life away from the online world, do that. Because the more you write, you just get comfortable and you get clear. So then when you hop online to write your blog post, you could mix the facts where you do your research and you have your experience with some flavor and some flair. It's like my last post. And again, hey guys, I understand everybody is living a different life, but I talked about one of my vacations in New Zealand, and I stepped inside my experience and brought my readers along for the ride, saying, here's what it felt like, here's what it looked like. And I explained how that's one way to actually drive more traffic and profits. It's to have a dream, a vision, and when you get excited about it, you start being the person who lives that life before you become the person. So it's stuff
Wow.
like that. That's like the next level stuff, because most bloggers are just like, create value, build connections. And of course, these are the foundations, but to really get that mix between facts and that colorful flavor. I mean, I wrote an entire ebook on how I learned, how I was taught, how I learned 7 blogging lessons from 2 Thai ladyboy streetwalkers in Bangkok. So I developed these types of analogies. That's the whole ebook I wrote on that. And I mean, they're bite-sized, 5,000 to 6,000 words, but it's like all of us have these stories in our lives, whether they seem more average or, you know, plain Jane or more colorful, where we could bring these experiences and draw analogies between that and our blogging niches. And then, of course, again, you add in the facts. So I just like doing that from time to time, adding those colorful stories to make it entertaining, to make it fun. And then, of course, follow up with the basics to, you know, drill those points home to help your readers out. So finding the mix between the two, and really it comes with writing practice, Jeff. Write.
Wow. And it must be fun to get a chance to travel the world and write about it. So.
Oh, it's such a blessing, because so many folks, I think most of us in our home countries, we're just used to seeing things through one filter. But then when you travel to, say, Thailand or Bali or wherever, New Zealand, you see things through a different filter. There's different cultures, there's different mindsets. So it's enjoyable, and it's helped me so much with my blog, because as fun as it is, it's really helped me leave my comfort zone. And that's another very important point. Any entrepreneur needs to develop that skill, especially a blogger, really anyone, leaving your comfort zone, facing your fears. So it's been a real cool synergy for me.
Wow. Yes, and that's a great point. When you're dealing in business, it's never comfortable. And usually that breakthrough is right when you're the most uncomfortable. And so you got to keep reminding yourself that every time you're going through some things and like, oh, I don't know if I'm going to take that next step. That next step usually is that breakthrough. So I remind myself that often. But now, here's a fun one. For all you academians, how you say it, grammar check. So many people get so caught up on it has to be a certain ADA style, and it has to be this and that. When it comes to blogging, how much of that really matters?
Not a ton. It really doesn't, Jeff, because blogs are so different. I mean, depending on your niche, if you are a writing purist, perhaps you'd want to pay more attention. But for most of us, the informal style works best. So casual, lax, laid back. Yeah, really for most of us. Now, you do want to write enough so it's not littered with grammar errors, where there's typos and it's really awkward, because obviously sometimes I see that a lot of my readers, English is their second language. So folks will really want to keep writing to at least get the basic kinks out. But it could be more rough and ready and informal, because blogs, I know a lot of these bloggers think I can't write, and I say, neither can I. And then people laugh. And I think, honestly, one of my ebooks was the highest rated ebook on all of Amazon, How to Find Your Writing Voice. I think it has like 57 of 59 reviews are 5-star. And the ebook is so informal, and I think it just perfectly embodies what I do. It's like you could write how you write and succeed with that voice, as long as it's from your heart and just informal. And you have to polish your skills, but you don't need the grammar and all that. All those niceties are not as important with blogging.
That's interesting too. And honestly, to find that true voice is a hard thing to do as well. To find that you feel comfortable, you're writing from your inner truth, and this is just your words versus the overthinking it and saying, well, it has to be perfect grammatically, or I need to sound like this blogger that I've read, or that blogger. And now you're trying to emulate and losing your own true voice. So how have you overcome that? Because that is a hard thing to overcome.
I think really embracing your fears is where it starts, because most of us don't want to write from our heart because we're afraid people will criticize us for it. We're afraid nobody will read because who the heck am I? There's a lot of self-consciousness stuff going on, a lot of low self-esteem. So that's really where it starts. When you come across someone who's writing from their heart, it's to say, what are they doing? How are they doing it? Then with the writing practice, again, to help you get clear and gain more confidence, you're going to realize that people who succeed online with blogging, become pros, they blog their voice, and there's no other way to do it, because the split second, even if it feels comfortable, you find yourself being a robot or a parrot, and you try to mimic a guy, so like a Neil Patel or Brian Dean or whoever's out there, Darren Rao is a pro blogger, you're going to realize that everybody will just say, oh, forget this other blogger. I'll just go to the super successful, famous blogger and follow their blog anyway. So it's the quickest way to lose your readership, because I'll say, oh, this sounds like a poser or a faker. There's nothing authentic or genuine. So you're going to realize that just like no two snowflakes are alike, no two writing voices are exactly alike. And when you write in your voice and you own it, that's exactly what's going to help you stand out and become the most successful.
Okay, that's great advice. I mean, that's hard. I mean, even in video, video is hard because everybody want to look like or sound like one of these experts that are out there. I remember when, now this might date me. I guess this dates me because I didn't shave today. So, but I remember when in corporate America, everything had to be so polished. And then Gary Vee came out, and Gary Vee showed the true Jersey. I mean, he's cursing, he's dropping bombs. Now, all of a sudden, you see all these videos with all these experts, and everybody's cursing. Everybody's so unapologetically expressing. But it's like, but you're trying to sound like Gary Vee, because before that, it was unacceptable. Everybody was clean cut. Now everybody is just, I'm just going to drop these F-bombs and blah, blah, blah. And that's just who I am. And you're right. You're like, if I want to hear that, I just go to the guy that started all that. I'll go to Gary.
You have to find your own path. And actually, Gary Vee, I didn't know about it till later. I didn't find out, but he was my neighbor in New Jersey. He grew up one town over in New Jersey. Yeah, northern New Jersey. And I'm like, oh my goodness. Because in the past, I was a little more higher energy and more high strung before I got deeper into my meditation, my yoga, and all that stuff. So
I think that's a Jersey thing. I think y'all
it is.
Jerseyans are high strung.
Yeah. Well, you know what it is? There's like 10 million people in this little state that's 3 hours top, north to south in an hour. It's just so small.
Yeah.
But it's just, you have to just do it from your heart. It just, when you have these ideas that feel really good and scary, but it feels really freeing, those are the ideas you want to blog about. And when you're thinking about, okay, do I want to write this post? It's going to be controversial. I'm so afraid I'll step on people's toes. But it's coming from your center. You got to do it, because when you do it more regularly, you'll get more comfortable in your own skin. And when you reach that point, then you'll naturally write from your heart in your voice. You know what I mean? It becomes habitual. And I know I've met so many bloggers offline when they met me, and that's where I know that I'm on point. I mean, I know it in my heart, but they're like, oh, you're just like the guy I follow online. And there's no dissonance. There's no acting. And then I've met other top bloggers like Zach Johnson, another New Jersey guy, actually. Zach Johnson, top blogger for decades. He said how he's met other bloggers that are really pretty well known, of course, not naming names. But when he met the person offline, it was very uncomfortable, because he realized the online thing was a persona. And he was acting, and it was just this. And then offline, the person was very different, and it was awkward. So you never want to go down that path unless you want to live a life of fiction.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Wow. And really nowadays with online, a lot of the online personalities are similar to what we used to look at for celebrities in, television and other entertainment. And so you're right. When you meet one and they're really down to earth, they are who they are, you really gravitate toward those. And then the ones that you meet and they're totally different than the person that they show, online or in the media. It really is a turnoff. Because I remember in the music business when I used to be in that, you'll meet some of these people like Cuba Gooding Sr., rest his soul. When I met him, I mean, he was just so like down to earth. I mean, we were like family all of a sudden. But I've met some others that you met them and you're like, wow, you are nothing like the person that you show. I mean, you show this one thing, but behind the scenes, I don't know how you even have any friends. It's like, who
I
are you?
know.
You know,
I know. It's you see when it's some people when it gets to their head or their ego calls the shots. I've actually seen that with a number of guys who played in the NBA. Because I only played like the JUCO level, but I follow the one high school here in New Jersey called now it's the Patrick School, but it used to be called St. Patrick. And they had many superstars at the school. Kyrie Irving's one of them. Michael Kidd Gilchrist. So many stars and different guys I've met. And you kind of see the guys that stay down to earth are the happiest. And then there are other guys that just, it gets to their head. And there's just such a difference between this carefully constructed public image and them versus the
yeah,
other folks that are just, they're true blue all the way through. And you respect that because they're being themselves. They're not trying to be anybody else and they're happy in their own skin. So guys, all you bloggers out there, be very careful about creating a carefully crafted online persona because eventually it will catch up to you and really you won't feel clear about what you're doing online. And by clear, I just mean you won't be able to sleep well at night. Like your conscience won't feel clear, because you're trying to be something you're not.
that makes sense. That makes sense. Now, when you're writing for others, like you're writing for businesses, um, how is how do you basically infuse your personal voice and your personality into it? Now, let me give you an example. I used to work with a company, and they had bloggers that wrote for their company, and it was interesting because the bloggers weren't even writing about what they offered. So they offered apartment rental help, apartment searches, but the bloggers would write about pets and they would write about the park, but it still tied into what the business was trying to do, and those were some of their better blog posts, which I never understood how a cat or a dog would make you want to rent an apartment, but it worked. how do you you know how do you infuse like that personal touch when it comes to, for a lack of a better word, cold corporate messaging?
Sure, sure. Well, I really haven't done a ton of corporate work, Jeff. Most of my freelance clients have been just individual bloggers. So I've
Okay.
never really gone down that road. I mean, it could be, if you get clear on it, it could be effective to go that route.
Mhm.
But for me, almost 100% of the time, virtually, I just had to parrot their voice
Okay.
and just do things how they wanted it because it was appearing on their blog under their brand umbrella. So I really had to put myself in their shoes. So I never really encountered that. What's
Okay.
cool with me is that I get to do that because I spend virtually all my time now. I do very little freelance work on my blog. So like
Okay.
I call the shots and run the show, and it's all these interesting analogies sometimes, and sometimes it's more straight laced. But I
Mhm.
think it could definitely be done. But I
Okay.
would say, like in that same vein, it would have to be skillful. And more than anything, I've found the writer's confidence and clarity helps them pull it off.
Okay.
Because if you feel awkward doing it, say developing something between corporate and your voice and trying to find that nice synergy, it's going to come off that way. But it really is an energy thing. I mean, everything is energy. I spend like 3-4 hours a day managing my energy between yoga and exercise and meditating. And that's another huge part of what I do. Yeah, no, I really do. I'm very, very serious about it, because with how much I write sometimes, just guest posting for other individual bloggers, I mean, sometimes 10, 12, 15 posts a day.
Wow. Wow. It's
So
funny. I just finished
putting
meditating.
in that type of energy and that effort.
Yeah. I just finished meditating right before this call. Yeah. So I could kind of be centered when we got on this call.
Go.
So good. Now tell me,
Totally.
for the younger bloggers, the newbies, how do you get into blogging to where you are now, where you can do this full time? You know, I guess, like I told you before we got on the call, the good, the bad, and the ugly. You know, how do you get to a state to where you can travel the world and you can blog, you know, more than just I guess you would say, the books and the courses that you can take? How did you get to where you are?
Be in absolute love with blogging. Love it. Blog like you breathe. You have to love this, because the only way that you spend 5,000, 7,000, 10,000 hours of your life blogging in front of a computer is if you love it and you look at money and traffic as like an extra or a bonus. Because even if you want to live my life of circling the globe, you can and will do it, but it takes following a few professionals who've done what you want to do, and then focusing on the basics. It's really not sexy. Even if the life appears to be sexy, it's creating content and making friends with powerful bloggers by helping them out. That's all that it is. But the issue is, with most new bloggers, their emotional intelligence is vibing so low down the scale from fear and scarcity and loss, where they say, oh, that sounds good. And then after 1 week, because they're vibing down here and they're not doing their meditating and their yoga and they're just not aware, after 1 week or 1 month or even a year, they're like, oh, I've only made like $200. I'm going to quit. And that's not how you live this life. You have to do the creating and the connecting, generously creating helpful content, solving reader problems, and then bonding with top bloggers by helping them out, asking for nothing in return, earning their trust. And then these people will, if you're practicing your writing and publishing the content, they'll endorse you, they'll promote you, they'll spread your word, they'll buy your stuff. And then from there, success multiplies. But it's really keeping it simple over a sustained period of time. And the ugly part is that, let's face it, you face most, if not all, of your deepest fears on this entrepreneurial journey when it becomes years, when it becomes 7 years, 10 years, beyond. You're going to face all of your money fears. You're going to face a lot of fears between your domestic life. It's just all that stuff comes up, because you have to ask yourself, if I appear to be rare, like when I come back, I tell my wife, you know, we're not going to say the neighbors here in New Jersey, hey, how was your recent 4-month trip to Fiji? Most folks are like, what? You spent 4 months in Fiji or 6 months in Bali. And there's a reason why me and my wife are rare birds. It's that most folks do not leave their comfort zone to that extent to live that life. Because that's what it is. It's leaving your comfort zone, doing simple things for 6,000, 7,000 hours. Most people, after 10 hours, they're ready to give up because they're just too many fears to face. So that's ultimately it. You have to stick to simple things, but then keep doing it and don't panic and bail. Almost every blogger panics and bails. They look for a shortcut or a complex hack, and there's no such thing. It's like the most movie-worthy lives require a movie-worthy commitment to the basics, and especially with blogging.
Wow, that's powerful. That is real powerful, because that happens so often in many entrepreneurial journeys that you just say, well, this isn't working. You know, let me go to something more comfortable and pretty much what everybody else is doing. Let me just do that because this isn't working, and not really just seeing it through. But wow, 4 months in Fiji. See, most people I know, you'd have been all on Facebook. Look, yeah, for, and so
Yeah.
forth.
Oh, you know what it is, Jeff? I share a lot of those images, but I think one of the things that's really endeared me to folks, I put those images out there. I definitely do. And then when I get on my blog, I'm like, this is the life and picture this. And then I talk about not only the practical steps that you want to follow, but then I talk about my failures and my fears and how it's uncomfortable and it's not overnight. And so many people are like, oh, like I got featured for a while. I had a contributor gig on Positively Positive, and some of the other contributors are Mark Cuban, the Shark Tank guy, Seth
Yeah.
Godin. These are like high-level, world-famous celebrities, and people
Yes.
are like, "How did you do that? How did you do that?" And I was just like, 10 years. Like, and to most people, it's just such an alien concept to do something. Like, they just want to think, I want to do that quickly. And I'm
Yeah.
like, did Mark Cuban make his billions quickly? Did Seth Godin become the marketing mind of the world?
Yeah.
These people did not, these people, it's in terms of years. And that's where most people, I share the photos, but then I follow up with these basic fundamentals of this will take not just years of time.
Yeah.
During that time, you have to be helping people for years. It's just, there's no other way. So you could have that, but then the key is just to keep going back and then not to do, like you said, like so many different travel bloggers. I think they come from an energy of manipulation and fear. So here's how this is it. Here's this life. Do you want to live a life like this?
Yeah.
Here's the turnkey system, or here's the basic. Here's how you do it. And it's not ethical because they're lying. It's not
Yeah.
easy. It's
Wow.
not. I trust me.
And that's something too. That's something in marketing that really twists me a lot when I see a lot of these. I guess you would say gurus, and they're showing loads of money, and they're like, "You can be rich like this too." And for me, I'm like, "Yeah, it doesn't work that way."
No.
I mean, it would be nice if we could just take one course and all of a sudden we're rich too and we're successful. But first of all, a lot of people don't think logically. Logically, if I am a digital marketer and I'm going to teach you digital marketing and how you can be successful in rich digital marketing, we don't pay in cash. So for me to have a handful of cash, that's a red flag right off the gate. I'm like, nobody pays in cash in this industry. So I would have to go to the bank, withdraw money, get my film crew to film me with money, then go back to the bank and deposit. Because that's about as silly as it really is. And so they make it seem as if in 30 days you can be where I am now. And like you say, it takes years. And unfortunately, it's years of failure that you learn from, and then you become successful because you learn what not to do and how to modify things. And I know it's the same in writing. The reason I'm not a $1 million blogger is I'm the guy to put the pen down quick. I'll put the pen down. I'm like, yeah, this didn't work. I'm not good at writing. Let me stop. But you're right. It takes years and years and years of practice. And then you just develop your groove and go.
That's it. Yeah, I think the thing is, Jeff, people don't realize you're going to be practicing for free for a very long time. And you're going to be creating content and working for free. Like people tell me, well, business is slow. And I say, well, if business is slow, most likely you're slow. Like you're just waiting. You're not helping people for free. I think going back to Gary Vee, I forget how many thousands of hours he worked before he made anything online. And it's just such a difficult concept for people to get because they look at him now and they're like, oh, he's worth 150 million or 200, whatever it is now.
Yeah.
And they don't realize before that money came in, this one 7-figure blogger, I forget his name, but I saw him speak at Affiliate Summit East. I think his first year he made like $600, and he was posting 3 content-rich, excellent posts every day. But then he was building relationships with heads of syndication at really world-renowned digital outlets, and he was wining and dining them. So during this period of time, think of how many bloggers would quit and say, I put in this much work, but he put in the work of a millionaire up front. He relaxed, he didn't panic, he built relationships, he put their needs before his, And now he's not only millionaire many times over, but he gets like 1,000 emails a day, and he only responds to people who write one sentence to him. It's just this massive posture and clarity, but he did it for free. And it's the one lesson I've learned, like, you're going to be working for free for a long time
Yeah.
until people really start buying your stuff and hiring you and endorsing you, because you have to develop the skills. You're not going to gain trust until you have the skills. And this is a very difficult emotional journey for a lot of people, because again, it gets really uncomfortable and you'll keep running up against your fears again and again. But if you sustain, you will find that just being generous, that little bit beyond, the extra mile, just a little bit beyond, that's where everything starts to open up. And it's really cool to watch it unfold.
Wow. Yes. And you're really doing what you love. So that's the funny part about it, because if you're not getting paid for it and you're still doing it for that long, then you love it. That's what passion really is, versus I'm passionate about it because it has the potential of making a big payday. That's not really passion. That's more just work. That's just work.
Yeah, that's outcomes focused. I remember John Chow said that. He said 15 years in, he was at the same conference, 15 years, he's been blogging for 15 years. He said, I could say from my heart, honestly, if I didn't make a dime, I'd still be blogging today. 15 years down the road, I still have those thousands of posts because I love it. I just really love it. And then that's the attitude it takes to get good enough, to gain exposure enough to become really successful and live your dreams. It just has to be. And like you said, Jeff, when there's that attachment to an outcome, it becomes work. It becomes more of a job, because you think you're passionate, but then you understand that attachment to the outcome and you're pushing too hard for the check, and then it becomes more of a job. And that will kill your energy when it comes to really reaching the top of your niche and genuinely living your dreams. You gotta love it, guys. You gotta love the process.
Cool. Well, guys, I usually would ask for that final strategy, that final note. But in this case, I mean, Ryan has told you time and time again, really the secret to it all. You just got to put in the time. You got to put in the effort. You got to write every day. You got to go through those walls that seem to come up, and just keep building relationships and keep writing. And that is the secret that I took away from blogging. Well, everybody, there's been another marketing strategy session. I hope you enjoyed it. If you have any questions, put it in the comments, and we will surely answer those questions. And when it comes to blogging, let's just get started writing. I guess I have to start writing myself, or I'll just do video, Ryan. Take care.